All right, it's time for a brand new segment we're calling Confessions from the Couch. This is where Gail and Dan peel back the curtain and admit that the very human, imperfect, occasionally ironic things that happen even when you're a mental health professional. And I believe, Gail, you said you had one that you wanted to share today.
It's so meta. Ugh. Okay. And I tell this story a lot because I think it's a really good illustration of the tools that we try to teach in therapy. But I had this moment as a therapist, and especially well, I mean, we have electronic medical records, so I've often kept
Hmm.
a computer within my sight line. And one particular day, my computer was up and going, and an instant message crosses the screen. And those can be hard to ignore, right? So I get this instant message from, at the time, the business services supervisor for the office I was working in. And I'm thinking, oh shit, like this is a safety thing. Like she knows when I'm with people. She's not going to bug me or send me an instant message if it's not like mission critical right now. So I look at this message I really, in some ways I wish I hadn't, and in some ways I'm really glad that I did. The message said, and I quote, and this has probably been
And
about
I
10 years
quote,
now, and I quote, "I want to see you in my office before you leave for the day." And
ooh,
I'm sitting there. I got a guy sitting on the couch across from me, and like the whoa shit button like just gets pushed
yeah,
hard, right? So I
yeah,
use this little bit of disclosure to talk about like, okay, if this is what happened, how do you think I felt in this moment? And what do you imagine my clients often tell me?
uh, anxiety, fear,
Right,
worry.
scared, right?
Yeah,
So they tell them my stomach hit my knees, right? You read this and then you're like, whoa, shit. Of course, the second thought is I've got someone here and I can't lose my ever loving stuffing because I'm the therapist in the room, right? And how do you recover from this like whoa shit moment? Well, you use the tools that we're talking about, right? And so the next thing I said to myself is like, where did this anxiety come from?
hmm,
Well, it came from the message, but really it came from my perception about the
right,
message,
right. I was gonna say
perception
when
of
you
the
said it came from the
message.
message, I almost jumped up and went, "Wait a second!"
Right, right. What? Tell me, intervene, Dr. Kessler.
It,
Where did
it,
it come
it,
from?
it's your interpretation of the message,
Which
which
was?
was well, you jumped to a negative conclusion
Yep.
that this was some problem, and you could have chosen to interpret this differently.
Absolutely. So I, in the moment, without even thinking about it, I didn't like have a thought process. I just told myself, this is bad. I'm in trouble.
Right,
And
right.
then I went, is that true? Right? Is that accurate? What evidence do I have to tell me
Right.
that this is actually bad?
But we
Yeah.
don't necessarily want to assume that it's good either.
Right.
Because
Right.
what do you
Exactly.
know? What do you
Exactly.
know in
What do
that
I know?
situation?
So in this situation, and you're going to love it because this is back when, okay, this is a sub confession from the confessions of the couch. This is
Ooh.
back when Dr. Kessler was my boss. Because once
Oh.
upon a time, many, many, many years ago, he was my hiring
Oh.
manager. And I looked at this message, and you were my boss at the time. And I thought, huh, that's interesting. My boss is not on this thread. Neither is my boss's boss. Neither is HR. How bad can this be if none of these other players are on this message? Now, I admit, again, maybe a sub confession from the confessions of the couch, my second language is trucker and sailor. So, could I have said or done something that was a little irreverent and needing some correction? Sure, this is where I can allow for perhaps, right? But the person who sent it to me actually was a friend of mine outside of work, and I don't believe this woman would eviscerate me and, rake me over the coals and threaten my job within an inch of its life. And then I realized the reason I'm friends with her is because she was really good at her job and I could hand her something and never think about it again and it would just be magicked and done. So the likelihood that this is bad starts to go down and the likelihood goes up that she's done something or she's working on something that I had completely forgotten, but she needs my input on.
Right.
And then I realized it's Friday. And at the time I was working half day Friday. So I'd like bolt out the back door 4 to 6 hours before she was done with her day. Completely reasonable that she's trying to just like tug on my
Yeah.
shirt sleeve to say, like, hey, I know you're working a short day. Get your butt in here before you leave. And immediately the anxiety subsides. And,
Yeah.
like it's still a little uncomfortable, but it's sort of then leaning into the curiosity of like, oh, what could this be? As
Right.
opposed to freaking out and becoming unproductive.
Right. And even to abbreviate that further, like if I was were I working with someone in this position or were I to have the same thought myself, and I very
Yes.
well would have. Like just going to that place of I actually have no idea.
Yeah.
Like I have no idea what this is about. Like it might be something bad, it might be something good, but what I know right now is that I don't know, and that she wants to talk to me, and that there's
Yes.
sometimes she wants to talk to me about bad stuff, and sometimes about good stuff, sometimes about neutral stuff, and in almost every case, it's been pretty neutral.
Right. No, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
And it's so effective, right? Because you can show someone something like
Mhm.
this, they can see it and go, "Oh."
Yeah.
And I love having an opportunity to pull back the curtain a little bit and say, like, we
Hmm.
use these skills too.
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah.
we can teach them, right?
Yeah.
Because they
Yeah.
are useful. So that is my confession from the couch. I use these skills too.